Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Saturday morning webinar. It's so great to be here today on this lovely day, wherever you are. And my name is Judy Feldhausen. I am joined here with my good friend and fellow comic, Bob Wischmeier.
Thanks, Judy. This iceberg here, this is a bit like Judy's sense of humor. You see a little bit of it, but there's a lot more that you don't see, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's
And
awesome.
we are working with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and this is the 11th chapter. And Bob and I have said many times that this book was written in 1929, and that's going on, the same decade as 100 years here.
As a
So
matter of fact, right? But Judy made the comment to me a few weeks back. She said, maybe it's time to get back into the 21st century. So we're thinking maybe it's time that we're going to move away from Napoleon Hill here pretty quick and move on to some other things. In fact, we completely bypassed the previous chapter just out of self-defense. I think either one of us, anyway. So I think moving forward, we're looking at some other things, a different look at leadership development for our group. I think that's safe to say, isn't it, Judy?
yeah, it's very safe to say. Thank you, Bob. Very safe to say.
Yeah.
But this subject really is an important one. We may take some license here away from Napoleon Hill as we go through this, and as always, it's our opinion, Bob's and mine, which are different from each other, which can be a fun thing. And similar and of this century, and with the things that we have learned along the way. Isn't that right, Bob?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And you preach from the pulpit of memory, right? For the most part. I mean, we'll use other information, things that Napoleon Hill has to say as well. But we also dive into our own life experiences and whatnot. I think about this subconscious mind, the whole idea, and I think we all understand pretty clearly that, as we learn things, we store things in our brain, and we don't always have the capacity to hold those things up exactly when we need them. But some things don't stick so much. But we receive things, we file things into our brain, impressions into our brain, all kinds of things. And then we recall those lessons, those impressions, or whatever that we've learned when we need them. That's just how things work. You don't really have to think about taking your next breath, do you? You just do it. It's your subconscious mind. You don't have to think through everything. You have to think about blinking your eyes. It just happens. That's just what you do. And there are just so many things. And I mentioned this in my notes to Judy with regard to the subconscious mind, that there are just a lot of things in this life that we simply take for granted. I know that from my building experience through the years. You guys think about just walking up or down a set of stairs. You don't really even think about it. You just walk up them or you walk back down them. But what happens if one of those steps is an inch off? You're going to fall. I mean, no matter how you look at it, you're going to stumble down those stairs, because in your mind, your subconscious mind, you simply know that each step is going to be the same. When you're late, I don't know if you've ever built floor jacks before, but you're looking at a 7-inch rise and an 11-inch tread, something like that. You can have a variation of those, but they're all going to be the same. And so when you lay out those stair jacks to put your stairs on, each one has to be exactly the same. When they are, your subconscious mind, you simply walk up or you walk back. You don't have to think it through. But if you knew in your mind that these stairs are all off, then you've got to concentrate and think about each step that you take so that you don't stumble or fall. And that's kind of where we're going to be going with this today. It's just that there are just so many given factors in life that are just, you don't really need to even think through them. They're in your head, you know they're there, and you move forward with it. Right, Judy?
That's so right, Bob. And, scientists say that we have about 186,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thinking, right?
Yeah.
But 95% of them are things that we thought of yesterday. And so those things that we keep thinking over and over again actually go into our subconscious. And the idea is to be able to control some of that so that we can go into the positive part of that.
Yeah, I think, and we'll move on to the next slide here in a second, but that's kind of where I love that term pondering, because that's where you go back into your subconscious mind. You think about those things that are maybe from yesterday or whatever, but you ponder those things. You think about those things. You try to, I don't know, I guess, articulate in your thought process, where am I going to go with the information I've got here? And of course, you need to know where it is you want to go to. But anyway, this next slide is cool, Judy. If you want to explain this.
Yes. So when I was doing research, because I like to do additional research when I use someone else's book, to just get other thoughts and ideas and just visuals. And I came across this quote by Tony Robbins. And, whether you like him, whether you do not like him, he is known as one of the world's most renowned speakers and gurus around sales and self-motivation, self-improvement. He's even got products now, which I didn't even realize that he had. But he says that the subconscious mind is the part of our minds that makes decisions without our needing to actively think about them. It affects everything we think, say, and do. It stores our beliefs and values, determines our memories. Isn't that interesting?
Well, it is. And there you go again with the stairs. You don't have to actively think about walking up and down the stairs. You just know that they're going to all be the same.
Absolutely. And many of the things that go into our subconscious, I really think about it as creating those habits that happen automatically. So we all have habits that support us, and then those habits that are more challenging, that kind of makes us think or do negative things because it is a habit. And I know years ago, we did something called the 21-day challenge, and it was all about reforming our subconscious in retrospect, reforming that subconscious to create those positive things that we're doing and saying and thinking about over a 21-day period of time, so that it becomes really set into our subconscious mind.
It's just so true. And you stop and think about it, the kind of business that we're in, if we're involved in network marketing, not just doing sales, like finding customers, but if we're looking for actually finding new distributors to help us to build a residual income with the network marketing business, this business requires a measure of continuing education. Like this morning, now it's 7:14 here where I live in the Pacific time zone, but I've already read in 3 different books this morning, read and had to think about, did a little pondering, did a little highlighting and what in 3 different books. Now that I don't have to do that. None of us have to do that. But if we're going to increase our knowledge, if we're going to put new thoughts and new ideas and strengthen our resolve about anything, we need to continually input information into our brain, into our subconscious mind, so that we can draw from it when we need it. And that's true no matter what the subject is, whether it's business or or the news, or something, spiritual in nature. But that's what we do because it affects everything. What we put into our mind, that computer we've got that we put into our mind. Gosh, it's just remarkable, and you never know where a thought will lead, Judy.
It's so true. It's so true. And this is the picture that I was talking about before we started this morning, similar to the one that, guess it's not exactly the one that Dan has on his computer. But what I loved about this, when I saw this hill, and I believe this is Vail, Colorado, when I saw this hill, it's like so many different paths to use, right? So many different places to go. And just like our thoughts, we get to choose those paths. Some of the paths, I admit, are chosen for us, but we can make adjustments. And we're going to talk just a little bit about how we can make those adjustments to where our paths are led by others and how we can actually change those paths.
Napoleon Hill says that everything that man creates begins in the form of a thought. And it's just so true. And, I liken a lot of things to just to the lifestyle that I live, because that's my world, but I build things all the time, and I just ponder things. If I'm going to build something, I think about it for a long time before I ever start. I go back into my subconscious mind. I think about how things work before I ever pick up my tool bag or my nail bag or whatever it is that I'm going to be using tool wise. I've thought things through. My thought process, hopefully, if I'm building something, is going to lead me to be able to build it properly and correctly. I don't know how much you guys use YouTube for those kinds of things, but I spend a lot of time on YouTube trying to figure out how to do certain projects. Think of that nature. We just store things, memories, in our subconscious mind, and then draw from them. But we have to continually add. And that's why I mentioned this morning, I've already read out of 3 different books this morning, because we're always trying to add things to our subconscious mind, to our memory, to our brain that we can use going forward. Judy?
That's so true, Bob. And so what we want to do is look at those thoughts, right, that we have, and put emotion or feelings behind them. And we get to choose what kind of emotion or feeling. So this morning, I was also doing some pondering and reading, and I don't remember the words. I don't remember how to pronounce the language, but so we're talking about the same thing in 2 different ways. So the English word, Old English word for February is translated into mud month. Now, what does that bring to your mind, right?
You walk down by my barn right now and you'll know.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? In Scandinavia, do you know what it's called? Month of the Pearl. And that's because of those icicles that form on the trees. And when the sunlight hits them, they're as beautiful as pearls.
Oh.
Now, isn't that
a little different thought, huh?
A little different thought on the same instance. So we get to choose. Do we want to look at what is happening as the mud month or the month of the pearl? I just loved that analogy when I heard it this morning.
Yeah, I love that.
And so we can
note.
and I've got the words written down. I really can't pronounce them, so I'm not going to make people hear something incorrect. But just Google it or Alexa it or whatever.
Well, Scandinavian words are tough. I grew up in a family of Scandinavians. My grandpa's name was Ole Johansson, right? But my grandpa, and I've heard a lot of Scandinavian words that I could never repeat. I sure in good company. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Grandpa Oldie. Yeah.
So when we're looking at using our subconscious or helping our subconscious support our future self, so to speak, we want to look at some positive emotions. And Napoleon Hill has 7 here. I didn't necessarily agree with his 7, so I found some additional ones. So what do you?
A lot of additional ones.
It is a lot of additional ones. Absolutely.
So I think too, you guys, just take a minute and read through these. I don't know if somebody would like to read them or not, but as you read through them, every one of those words, when you read them, you can feel that. They all feel good. They do.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any of these emotions that stand out to anybody that's on the webinar this morning? Because I always like to take a word and just sit with it and actually use it for a week. That's like my word of the week. And so is there any word here?
Unmute your phone, you guys. Jump in here for a minute. I look at that word content and I'm like, that's a good word. This morning I built a fire in our wood stove and I let one of my barn cats come in. Her name is Kit. And she came over and got right up on my lap as we sat looking at that fire this morning. I wanted to, stay with the fire until it got going really good. So I'm sitting in a rocker with a gray tabby Manx cat on my lap, purring away, watching a fire in the wood stove. That's contentment.
Mm.
The word that stands out for me is the second word, acknowledged. And the reason, if I may give the reason, because I post certain nutritional tips and values, anything I share. And there are times when there's not even an acknowledgement. And it makes me wonder.
Oh gosh, I really hear you, Donald, because I have the same thing. I'm active also on social media, specifically LinkedIn, and but I posted something on Facebook the other day. It was actually a heart healthy video, and I think one person liked it. I sent something from my Rapid Funnel page from Synergy to a couple people and said, hey, I have this heart healthy video for women I thought you'd like to see. And I got back a message saying, I saw your post. I loved the video. And I have to tell you that Per-arginine saved my life. So sometimes, you are acknowledged. It's just in the ether. So, yeah, getting acknowledged is a pretty big thing.
And what I'm talking about is family chat. They all know that I clearly I'm not a doctor, but in other words, who are you to be sharing this information? That's what I get at times. But
so then you look at the word understood on this same list here, Donald. Where you understood, because when you are understood, it's not the really positive, feel good experience. You shared something, someone has understood it, and it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes, we say it takes 7 touches. I think with family, sometimes it's 700. So, So what really got to, I think, our family was that when my husband came home from knee replacement surgery, his take-at-home medication said L-arginine. And talk about acknowledgement that it said that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I may have said something to the doctor about why his, his cardiovascular system is like a 40-year-old. I may have talked to him about it, but for him to actually put that on the at-home hospital care was a great acknowledgement.
It
Sure.
is. I love that. That does feel good, huh? Well, you look at every single one of those words, and every one of them, when you just read it, it does feel good. So thanks for sharing. A very, very positive, very positive.
That's what I was
So the-
about. Thanks for sharing those words. I look at them differently going forward. And I'll make a note of all of them.
So take a screenshot
Okay.
with your computer and then put it somewhere where you can, just take a word over a period of time, even if it's just a day. Today I'm going to feel acknowledged. And when it's like when you're looking for a car, you never see that car on the road, but when you decide on the type of car you want, it's everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
So true.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's a flip side to this, isn't there, Judy?
There really is. And this one is, I don't know if it's not as, maybe it is as long, not quite as long. There's a lot of major negative emotions. And this is where many of us sit, unfortunately. So many of us, when something happens, this is exactly where our mind goes. We're worrying, we're miserable. We feel those burdens heavy on our shoulders.
Well, we all know people who live this way, don't we? We do. I mean, there are people in our lives who just suck the energy right out of the room, and we need to do everything that we can to avoid folks like that, because it's, again, seriously, everybody on the webinar right now, just read those words, and every one of those words, when you read it, leaves you just kind of like, they all bring a negative emotion to you, every one of them. It's just the truth. So you kind of got to ask, well, and all of us fall into this, Judy, from time to time. I don't care who you are, that nobody stays on top all the time. I'm not, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, but for the most part, even the most positive guy has a moment. And but getting out of it, that's what's so really, really important, is working our way out of those kinds of negative emotions, because nobody wants to be around you when you're that way. I was reading Ella Wheeler Wilcox. I've never really read anything from her before. Ella Wheeler Wilcox. You guys should Google her. In fact, I did that this morning. She's a poet and an author, and I actually took a screenshot, a couple of her quotes. But she talks about that. When you laugh, the whole world laughs with you. It's just the positive versus the negative, and people don't want to be around negative. They really don't. So, as you go forward, especially if you're trying to build any kind of a business or rapport with people, staying away from the negative human emotions is really positive. Okay.
Right. So I'm going to just flip back to this so we can feel light again. Right.
Yeah. Do it. Yeah.
And to be able to take the negative and turn it into a positive. My husband says it's what we have right now here is not a problem. We have an opportunity. And so to look at everything that we have as an opportunity to grow, it's a great way to look at life, and it gets you in a different state.
Yeah, there are obstacles that you have to face in life, that's for sure. But it's how you face or deal with those obstacles that makes all the difference, and it's mindset. It's your subconscious mind. Where do you go in your head when things go south? I often find myself saying to myself, well, what am I supposed to be learning from this? You try losing a child. You try lose a child and then try to figure out in your own mind, what am I supposed to be learning from this? And it can be really a challenge, and it requires prayer it requires filling your mind with positive things, with, I don't know, anything that will help you to deal with something that devastating and that challenging in a positive way, because we want to stay on top of things. And for me, Judy, and I'm so thankful that this was our concluding slide. Prayer has been that for me. I've already had prayers this morning already, along with my reading. So thank you for sharing this slide.
Yeah, you're welcome. And, you know, a lot of times we turn to prayer when there is an event. It could be a positive event, it could be a negative event, but that's when we turn to prayer. But, you know, what a blessing it is to be able to turn to prayer every day and to make it a part of our daily habit that goes into our subconscious, because, you know, that connection is going to make a difference.
Well, it makes all the difference. Yeah. You go back, like you said earlier, about, the 21-day challenge, the concept, that idea, that principle, and we did that for some long period of time, where we wrote down specific things that we wanted to challenge ourselves to create the right kinds of habits in our life, and having prayer being one of those challenges for us. Prayer or pondering, or wherever you are in your spiritual life, but it makes all the difference in the world. And I find myself when I'm driving, I've had a lot of conversations with God in my car. You know, I've had some pretty down to earth, realistic talks with Him, riding it, just driving my car. And we all have to find that place, you know, where and when and how we do it. It's very individual, but boy, there's power in prayer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know when I was going past this is a forest preserve in Illinois. When Jeff and I were driving past, we were just kind of moseying down some, you know, old road, and we saw this. I just really felt that, you know, this is a place to be with God. And I feel that those two people in the picture, they were sitting there praying.
It's awesome. Where we live here, well, it's called Little Bear Ridge. We live on top of the ridge. It's beautiful here. And we have these unobstructed sunsets at night. Sometimes they're just plain, the sun just drops. But more often than not, the entire sky will be lit up with multiple colors of orange and pink and red and blue, and it's amazing. But it's so peaceful to watch it. You don't want it to. You want it to continue. You want that sunset to last longer than it does. But boy, I'll tell you, it causes you, or it brings a measure of peace of mind to watch those beautiful sunsets, and we're really blessed to have that. And anyway, everyone, thank you all so much for joining our webinar this week. And we, Judy and I, will probably be regrouping a little bit as we go into the month of March with regard to the topics. I'm going to be on a road trip almost the entire month of March, and but I'll have my phone with me and I'll have my laptop with me, so I'll stay in touch with everyone in the process. I've got we have a special speaker going to be on the call with us on Monday, Edward Dardis, not really new in Synergy, but really an interesting fellow. I think you guys are going to enjoy hearing from him. He lives up in Spokane, Washington, but he's very well educated and just a really interesting man. And he's going to jump on with us on Monday. And then the following week, March the 6th, Allie from Synergy Worldwide is going to join our call and share a few thoughts with us as well. So looking forward to some fun Monday morning conference calls as we go into the month of March. So sure do invite everyone to join us on Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Judy?
Awesome. So this concludes our webinar today. Do we have any thoughts or questions before we say goodbye? You'll have to unmute yourself.
It's Donald again. My thought is, thanks for sharing this. I would not look at those words in the same way. Like I said, I'll make notes of them and commit most of them or some of them to memory, even the negative ones. So I appreciate this webinar.
Thank you, Donald.
Yeah, thank you, Donald. Enjoy the beautiful weather in Barbados. You really got an advantage over those of us who are freezing our tails off up here in the north.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Judy and Bob, thank you so much for
So thank you, Bob, for, as always, having a lot of fun with me on Saturday morning.
That's great. It's all good. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. And I guess we'll see you all again before you know it.